how is your early season going?
Oh, it's kicking my butt.
That was just a snippet of cyclocrosser Ruby West's assessment of her early season. She was in conversation with Molly Herford. Later in the episode, you'll hear more from Ruby West as well as 3 other athletes. Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Pioro, editor. With me is Philippe Tremblay, web editor. Philippe, how's it going?
It's going great, Matt. How are you?
I'm well. All we've been talking about the last few days is the World Championships, which recently wrapped up. Good racing, no?
It was great racing. Wet and cold for the elite men, and insanely incredible 104-kilometer solo in the elite women's race.
I know,
We had controversy in the U23.
I know. It had like amazing performances, controversy. What else could you want? I didn't think of this at the time, but I think the last time I remember a 100-kilometer solo breakaway in a championship road race was Svein Tuft at Nationals. What was that, like 3-4 years ago?
4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
That too was one of those things where you're thinking never going to happen, but there they go.
All right. So on this episode, we focus on some other racing that happened over the last week. It was in much drier conditions. Do you know what event I'm talking about?
Not
No,
quite?
Not quite. It's a mountain biking event.
Oh, in Epic Israel, where everybody was parched and dry.
Exactly. Canadians Catharine Pendrel and Hayley Smith rode together, and Catharine kept an audio diary for us, and we're going to hear from that. Philippe, are you going to be doing cyclocross this year?
I might jump into 1 or 2 races. We'll see.
Okay, because, I've seen you riding a cyclocross bike on mountain bike trails. I haven't seen you, but I've seen your social. And also, and I give you grief about this, you've been running with some of the elite runners in the office over at Running Magazine.
Building that fitness for I don't know what yet.
All right.
Maybe to beat you in a cross race.
Well, that would be easy. And also, I think we're in different categories, mercifully for me. But to help with your running kick, we are going to hear from Coach Peter Glassford. I asked him about running and cyclocross, which I think is, well, it's part of this discipline, but it's never something I actually focus on. So maybe you'll get some running tips, but maybe you've already got that in the bag. Finally, Philippe, I know you know the answer to this, but can you tell me what is probably the most major cyclocross performance by a Canadian in the last month or so?
Magali Rochette winning Jingle Cross World Cup, which was absolutely incredible.
You saw that, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't miss.
Can't miss watching. Were you nervous like me when you saw her go over her handlebars in the sand pit?
It was early on, so there was a long way to go still.
All right, so you weren't screaming at the television. We are going to hear from not only Magali Rochette, but also Jen Jackson, who also won her first C2 race. Ruby West and Michael Vandenham, they are going to look back at their early season performances and look ahead to the year to come. But first, 2 mountain bikers from different teams take on a hot, dusty stage race together. On September 28th, Catharine Pendrel and Hayley Smith had an epic victory. And I really do mean epic. Not in the lazy way in which anything fun is epic, but the pair of cross-country racers won the final stage and the overall title of the 4-day Epic Israel. The event was held in the north of the country and featured sandy routes, roads, rocky trails, and even climbing up the walls of an old fort. Dust and heat were some of the toughest elements on stages that often ran more than 90 kilometers. While Pendrel and Smith spend the regular seasons duking it out on the World Cup circuit on their respective teams, they've worked together in a stage race before. In 2018, they won the 5-day Swiss Epic. They were back on the top step of the podium in Israel. During that race, Pendrel kept an audio diary for Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast to chronicle the pair's epic journey.
Hey guys, this is Catharine Pendrel and Haley Smith. We're checking in from the Epic Israel, where we just started today with a 22-kilometer prologue. It's a two-person TT, and it was mostly flat, 100 meters of elevation, and it took us on dirt roads out to the ocean, to the town of Acre, where we got to ride along fortress walls and along some really pretty amazing scenery. And we ended up finishing fourth today with Aaron Huck and Chloe Woodruff taking the win. Tomorrow morning we've got our alarm set for 5 a.m. and we'll be on the bikes racing by 7 a.m. for a 100-kilometer stage. So we're hoping to bring back some of the time that we lost today and keep it an exciting race. We'll check in tomorrow. Day 2, stage 1, what a day. Haley and I had an amazing ride. There's 600 teams here, which means 1,200 riders. We all start mass start. Luckily, as UCI riders, we get to start at the front because, yes, it was a little bit sketchy. We were riding into the rising sun for the first half hour, starting at 7 a.m. And there were some tense moments, but we navigated it quite well and ended up being the first women into the single track. We worked with a good group of men for at least an hour, and then things started spreading out, and it was the two-woman team of Haley and I. And it's always interesting at stage races because you and your partner take turns of who feels good typically. I was stronger in the first 2 hours, and then Haley was super strong in the last 2 hours, and we really just help each other get to the finish line and make sure we stay on top of our nutrition, our fueling, our drinking, our cooling. The last hour was really tough though. We were struggling in the heat, the legs were getting flat, and it ended with about 15 kilometers of flat far roads into a headwind, and with 7 or 8K to go after 87 kilometers, we looked back and we saw the next women's team, and they just blew by us. Well, we held on for as long as we could, but it was a little heartbreaking to lose the race there. But I think we did such a great job kind of rallying back after the prologue, and we moved up to second in the GC. Yay! All right, it's 5 a.m. here in Israel, and Haley and I have just gotten up and gonna head to the meal hall for breakfast. It is day 3, stage 2 here, and we've got 91.5 kilometers on tap. Just a couple of kilometers less than yesterday's Queen stage, and a couple 100 meters of less of climbing. Yesterday we did a great job. Things kind of unraveled a little bit in the last hour when the sun really came out. So today we're gonna just fine-tune our pacing as best we can and fine-tune our fueling to feel strong at the end. We'll come back, and it's such a well-organized race. We'll come back and go to the chill-out zone afterwards, where we can hang out with everybody else and hear about their races, and have lunch with everyone at the race. Okay, we've made it day 4, final day of Epic Israel, and we're in the leader's jersey. Haley and I had an amazing day yesterday, just led kind of start to finish, and we're problem-free, which a lot of the other teams suffered with mechanical issues yesterday. The stage for us was about 30 minutes shorter, which was a nice treat, and we felt strong at the end. We managed our pacing in the heat and our fueling, and we did this epic 15-kilometer two-person TT to the finish line because we were not going to get caught in the last 7K again. So yeah, really great day. Excited to start in the leader's jersey today. We also get to sleep in an extra hour today, and only 75 kilometers. So hope it goes well and we stay in the leader's pink jersey today. All right, guys, final check-in. We did it. We were able to win the Epic Israel. It was pretty amazing in the end. Started off a little bit behind and just kept charging. We worked so well together. No mechanicals, no crashes, and a lot of hard work and a lot of fun together. Pretty exciting. It's definitely, I think, the highest competition stage race we've ever had, with at least, I think, 6 women there that have gotten a top 10 at a World Cup this year. So yeah, pretty amazing to pull off the win. And we're already at the airport. We're headed to Tokyo to check out the Olympic course for next year. Okay, thanks everyone for following.
Catharine Pendrel from Kamloops, BC races for Cliff Pro Team. Hayley Smith of Uxbridge, Ontario races for Norco Factory Team. They joined up to compete as a duo in the recent Epic Israel 4-day race, which they won. I tease my colleagues at Canadian Running Magazine. I always say how horrible running is compared to riding a bike. Actually, I use stronger language than that, which you'll hear in my discussion with Coach Peter Glassford. It's odd, though. If I dislike running so much, why do I like a form of bike racing that often requires me to get off my bike and to run with it? I asked Glassford about cyclocross and running. He has lots of tips that will help you move your feet quickly when they are in direct contact with the ground in a cyclocross race. My question for you is related to running and cyclocross. Now, I'm a professional disliker of running. I tease the people over at Running Magazine here, our sibling magazine, that running is for cowards and criminals. But it's part of cross, and I don't really train for it. And here's my reasoning. It seems to occupy such a small percentage of my season's racing. So, I'll just run when I get there on the course. I'm wondering if this is maybe not the best approach to running. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think, there's a few different layers, right? I think there's the people like in your office who probably enjoy running, right? And it might be an important part of their fitness, right? Like there is a cardiovascular benefit. I think there is even crossover, especially for the time crunched people. If you were going to choose, bet on someone in a race who does a couple runs a week and a couple rides a week versus the person who just does, a couple rides a week, you probably bet on the running person, right? That sort of makes some logical sense, and there's maybe limits to that. But so the first thing is just if you like running, then that's great. That can be an effective part, especially as we get into cross season where the weather's a little dicier and it's harder to ride outside and stuff. From there, I think we need to look at the actual demands of the sport. So I've always argued that, if you're not a runner, there's no real logical reason we should be doing like marathon running training, right? Like steady run training. Rather, we have those very specific sort of usually uphill, maybe running through sand or mud, but just short bouts, right? Like, I don't know, especially in North America and Canada specifically, there's not generally a ton, right? It's maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And taking your idea, a lot of those are probably more limited for most people in the actual mechanics of getting on and off the bike, and less so by the actual, like, one foot in front of the other. So to me, like, most people need to spend their time, like, to your point, on cornering, on, pedaling over unstable surfaces and sand, making it through the sand pit. And then also obviously on the sort of mounts, dismounts, and carrying of the bicycle. So it's one of those, like, if you spend 20 minutes every morning, and while someone goes out running, and go and spend 20 minutes mounts, dismounts, I don't know, it'd be a tough one, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are doing some running, some feet on the ground, some impacts from the getting on, getting off. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I think you got to sort of choose and find that limiter. If you find that you're like losing races and losing space, in those run-ups, then, you could make an argument for doing some run-ups. And that could be built into a workout, right? Like I'm very mean and simple in that I like sort of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and we alternate the the periods of on, so the hard periods as running and biking, right? So it might be a loop where we go up a hill and run up it for 30 seconds and then sort of coast down and then ride up maybe the same hill or another section really hard for 30 seconds. So it's sort of a 2-minute interval, if you will, but it's 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And you can do that for a while if you want, right? So you get a lot of practice running and a lot of practice mounts, dismounts.
That sounds like a solid workout, and I do like the variety of it. It just, for the simple fact that it makes it more cyclocrossy. Let's say I have an event and I show up, I pre-ride the course, and I realize, oh, there's some like really good steep run-ups here. What kind of stretches or warm-ups should I do, especially if I feel that I'm going to need to like do big steps up a hill or even up steps themselves? Right.
And this gets to, are you preparing for that goal, right? You see this a lot where it's like you just aren't used to that thing. I was just at Crank the Shield, a stage race for mountain biking, and you'd be like, oh, why is he bringing that up? But there's a lot of mounts and dismounts at this thing, a lot of like hiking up steep hills, a lot of, river crossings you had to dismount and mount for. And so it's like, again, same deal, like the walking, there is walking up hills, there is semi-running up hills. But the bigger thing is how quickly can you, I need to get off, often like as you're going quickly into a riverbed, and then sort of walk across this river and then hop on quick, right? And you can easily gain 30 seconds, if not more, on people just by being quick on your dismounts and mounts. And cross is similar, right? We've all seen the person who has to completely stop and unclip. So to your point, though, stretches, I think it starts just in your general training. Have you been walking up hills with your bike? Have you been doing some of these 30-30, 30-30 type workouts that I'm talking about? Or just doing whatever, hill sprints, doing some cyclocross loops. Maybe your weekly practice has some hills so that your tissue is used to that, right? It's the same as like running. There's no magical stretch. It's just, are you a runner or not? If you're not, you're going to be sore. The one thing that you do see at cyclocross races and warm up and stuff is the pros usually will do a couple like slower laps where they definitely like as part of their warm up, they're going through the course, but their dismount is not an explosive dismount. They sort of walk and high step over the barriers, and then they sort of walk up the steep hills and stuff. So they still sort of dismount, but then it's just like sort of a slow motion dismount, walk up, get back on. And I think that makes a lot of good sense as far as, ankles and Achilles tendons in middle-aged people. You don't necessarily want to just jump off and be super explosive and sprint up hills from cold. But I think the, gradual conditioning over time is your bigger piece there.
I'm definitely going to do that this year when I'm confronted. I think even with barriers, I think my first go round on a course with the barriers, I'll just take it a little easy and then save the whatever explosivity I might have until a bit later. Peter, thanks very much for these tips.
Thanks, Matt.
Peter Glassford is a professional coach and head of Smart Athlete Coaching Services. Send in your Ask a Coach questions for Peter to podcast@cyclingmagazine.ca. After the opening races of cyclocross season, some top Canadian athletes had notched some impressive performances, while others seemed to be making a slower build to their season. National champions Ruby West and Michael Vandenham saw room for improvement. Meanwhile, Jen Jackson got her first win at a UCI C2 level event in Iowa. During that same weekend, Magali Rochette won her first World Cup race. Recently, contributor Molly Herford spoke with the four riders. They analyzed their early season performances and looked ahead to the racing that would take them well into the new year.
Jen Jackson, Easton Giant, presented by Transitions Life Care.
How is life on the new team?
It's been really good. These World Cups have been our first trip to all together, and Michael and I traveled a bit last season, so I knew I got along well with him, but it's been awesome having Dylan and Bridget and Avery along as well. It is just like family vibes. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And this is sort of your first year coming out hard in cyclocross.
Yes, this is my first like cyclocross season. I dabbled a bit last year. I did like the big events, nationals and Pan Ams, and then went on to race in Belgium after that. But it wasn't. I didn't have a program set up to race. I was just kind of checking it out. I knew I wanted to try cross, which would, see how it would suit me and have some fun. But after last season, I knew that I wanted to, give it a better shot this year, and I had the opportunity to race with the team. So, I couldn't not.
Yeah, and I mean, this early season, right after, you're starting right after Mountain Bike Worlds, you pretty much rolled directly into racing Rochester, Iowa, where, it's track. It's a busy start of the season. Did you miss having a bit of an off season, or was this like a better transition?
Yeah, this is my fourth big weekend of racing in a row. So Mountain Bike Worlds, then Rochester, and these 2 Cross World Cups. So, there hasn't been like an extended down period for me, but I don't feel that that's the best way for me to go anyways. I'm more partial to taking little micro breaks. So even though I'm racing these World Cups, the time between is pretty unstructured. I'm not training exactly. I don't really have a training plan between weekends. It's just if I want to go out and ride, I'll go out and ride, work on some skills, just have some fun. But I'm not putting there's no pressure, I guess, to get results here. I know that whatever I do, I'm in good shape coming off Mountain Bike Worlds, and just to focus on racing, working on, learning the bikes, dialing in skills, and just working to race better. So then by the end of the season, I do have some goals there.
Okay, so you might not be trying to necessarily have results, but you got your first UCI win last weekend in Iowa on Friday night. You finished in the top 10 at a World Cup. You just had a great finish here at Trek in today's C2. So that seems to work for you?
Yeah. Well, I think it's people like to say you focus on the process, not the results. But like when I'm in the race, I'm racing for positions for sure, and I'm super competitive there. But there's no downside if it doesn't go well. If I have a poor race, like I say last Sunday, I definitely faltered. I was really tired from the 2 previous days, fairly so, but it just kind of, that's how it happens. I don't have anything hanging on this. Obviously I want to get some good results for the team and the people who support us to, represent them well, but at the same time I respect myself, my own energy, and that's number one for me. If I can be happy about how I'm racing and actually want to show up and race, which I totally do right now. I race far better than when I'm down on energy and don't want to go to the start line.
Yeah. And so how has this early season success, is it changing what your goals and focuses are for the season, or do you already have a plan and you're gonna stick to it?
I have a plan for the domestic calendar, so through to November, and then a couple races in the south in December, but I haven't decided yet what European racing I'll do. More likely I'll try to go near the end of the season for Worlds and some World Cups, then over Christmas. As much as I loved Christmas cross last year, I think that having some time to, just some downtime, either to go somewhere to train, just hang out with the family, will be good for me. And mountain bike season kind of rolling through to next year, kind of like one season just rolls right into the next. So I can't race all season. I don't think I want to, but I'm enjoying it right now for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Michael Vandenham with Easton Giant, presented by TLC.
Okay, new year, new team. What is the team situation this time?
New-ish team, actually. It's sort of the same team that we've had going for the past 3 years. We're really excited to bring on Giant as a major part of it, and excited to add Jen Jackson on the roster. But essentially the structure and the backbone of the team is kind of the same as it has been for the past couple seasons.
Okay, how do you like the new Giants?
Oh, they're really good. And they've been such a great company to work with as well. That's such an important thing to us, is having someone who's really excited to be a part of the program, and someone that we can see a long-term relationship with. And I'd say Giant has been that person in every way.
Okay. Despite the fact that we're podcast and, audio and we can't show the bikes, tell us a little bit about what bike you're riding this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm riding the Giant TCX Advanced Pro 1. So that's basically we have a couple different ones here. We have a really cool blue and red and black one. We have just a black and red one. And then I also have a custom painted one from Velo Color, which is a paint shop in Toronto. But yeah, overall, like I'm really happy with how the bike's riding. I no complaints about it at all.
Nice. And how is the early season going? We're, 3 weeks in now, so how are the fields?
Yeah, I've done Rochester, Iowa City, and now here we are at Trek. I'll be honest, the first couple weeks were not quite where I wanted to be. Rochester, just first race of the year. I've done lots of like long mountain bike and gravel stuff, and didn't quite have the snap I needed. So that was all right. And then just Iowa, I just didn't have great races either day, but I had a really solid race yesterday. It was the first one where I went, oh yeah, this is kind of where I want to be and where I need to be and where I think I should be, and I think I'll be able to build off that moving forward. It was definitely a lot closer representation of where I felt I was going into the season.
Okay. And what is like the season overall schedule plan looking like?
Yeah, so we're finishing up here at Trek, and then the team's going to be getting back together for Fayette Cross in Fayetteville. After that, it'll be Cincinnati, and then Nationals, Canadian Nationals, of course, Pan American Championships, and then we'll also be doing the races down south, so Ruts and Guts in Oklahoma and Resolution, and then I'll be heading over to Europe for Christmas Cross, and then if all goes as planned, I'll be heading over again in February for a couple World Cups and the World Championships.
My name's Ruby West, and I race for the Pivot Maxxis powered by Stan's No Tubes team.
Awesome. How is your early season going?
Oh, it's kicking my butt. The heat is just, overwhelming, and I'm just trying to get through it and build the form for the goals that are later in the season. But, it's good. It's nice to get the intensity back in the legs and be in the race environment, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. So what is like the season overall plan?
Yeah, we're still working on the plan for sure to solidify like the exact details, but it'll be North America for the first bit of the season till Pan Am's. That's a big goal for me, Pan Am's and National Championships at the beginning of November, and then hopefully head over to Europe over Christmas and then for World Championships.
My name is Magali Rochette, and I race for Specialized Feedback Sports.
Awesome. Okay, so you just had your first World Cup win. Kind of reflecting on that, going into it, I know in the post-race interview you said, I dreamt of this moment and it was one of your goals, but did you actually see it happening that day?
That's a good question. I'm afraid to say, but kind of yes. I was really believing it, and I think you have to, because otherwise, how do you actually go to the front? So
yeah,
I really believe that I could do it, and I was feeling good, and I was coming off a good weekend at Rochester, so I'm like, I think everything is in place that I can do it, and I actually had a conversation with myself the week before, because I had a moment where I'm like, you know what, it could happen. Like, I've been dreaming of this for so long, but maybe it will happen this weekend and maybe not. But the conversation was about it may happen, and if it does, it's okay. Like, I can let it happen, because it's so easy to choke when you're so close to a big goal. And I've done that before, like many times. And so just allowing myself that, you know what, it's okay. Like, if it happens, it's fine. I've prepared for this. It's not a fraud. Like, I've prepared for this, and if it happens, it's fine. I just need to do my best, and we'll see if it does happen.
Okay, it's so funny that you're saying if it happens, it's okay. Like it's almost like a catastrophic event if it does happen. You're like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do now?
Exactly. But you can freak out, when you've never been in that position, and then you're going full gas, your heart rate's like through the roof, and then you're leading the World Cup, and it can be like, holy crap, what am I
should break.
Yes, exactly. and then you crash or whatever. So I just really, it sounds super silly, but I really think that this little conversation and realization helped me to make it happen on the day.
Yeah. And do you think you've done anything differently with training this summer? It seems like you've done a lot less racing this summer and a lot more fun on the bike. Like, you had that bike packing stuff and all of that. Do you think that's helped get you to this point now?
I really think so. And I think the fact that I was not racing as much allowed me first to take a break. Like, I took a break after Worlds last year, and a proper break because I didn't have to race again. In the past, for the last 5 years, I've been racing 11 months of the year. And so even though I was taking a break, I still had in my mind, well, I have to race in 2 weeks, so I better like kind of be in shape. And so this year I really took a big break, and then I started really fresh, and I was able to kind of build up into training and do some proper preparation.
Yeah. Was that scary, like almost detraining? Because I feel like when you're so used to 11 months of like being ready to go, it's scary letting yourself like chill.
Yes, it's super scary actually. And luckily I had David that was there, and he is like the mastermind behind all the training and traveling and preparation. So having him tell me, you know what, like remind yourself, you want to be good in February. That's like in 11 months from now, so it's fine. Like you will be fine. So make sure you really rest and he was actually telling me a lot, do everything that you want to do now. Because like that, when we're in Belgium in January and it's miserable, I'm not thinking of these things that I wish I could be doing. So yeah, all of that. I mean, it is scary, but I'm so glad I did it. And then once you start training, I mean, when I started, I really started solid training, and then it came back fairly quickly.
Yeah. And then what's your Euro plan for the season?
Euro plans, I will be going to Europe. First, I'm going to Bern in Switzerland. So that's in October 20, I think. So I'm going there. And then I'm coming back, doing Pan Ams and Nationals. And after that, I'll be doing like back and forth this year. So it didn't seem to work out that well for me to stay there for 3 months last year. So we're changing it up a little bit. And I'll be going for the November trip, then come back, train, go back for Christmas, and then come back and go back for the last three races, like 2 World Cups and Worlds.
Awesome. And any new CX Fever gear or anything like that?
Yes, actually, I have some. This year, they're ready. They have arrived, but they are in Canada, so I can't ship anything now. So when I'm going back, I'll start to like advertise it and ship it. But really cool neck warmers, like super awesome I think they're super awesome. They're super comfortable. They look cool, I think. So
oh, that's awesome. Every gear roundup I do, I always have like a buff in there. I'm like the neck warmer. It's just the most important thing you can have.
Exactly. It really is important. And this year, since this is a Canadian podcast, all the profits of the neck warmers sales will go to Cyclocross Canada. So
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, it's people at Cyclocross Canada have been working really hard. We don't really have that much funding, but I'm hoping that the little bit that we can have with that can help with especially the juniors that are trying to go to their first world championships, and it's really expensive. So all the profits will go there, and hopefully it can offset the cost for as many riders as possible.
Interviewer Molly Herford is a regular contributor to Canadian Cycling Magazine. She's also the author of Shred Girls, a work of young adult fiction featuring a girl named Lindsay who discovers how rad riding bikes can be. And that's the episode. It's put together by me, Matthew Pioro, and Philippe Tremblay. We had help from Terry McCall, and it's produced by Adam Killick. He also composed the music. Thanks also go to Ontario Creates for its support. Philippe, if people want to see more of what we're up to, where should they go?
Cyclingmagazine.ca, where you can read about Hugo Uhl and Michael Wood's power numbers from that wet and soggy elite men's world championships, and a great Q&A with Kelsey Mitchell, the 200-meter sprint world, still crazy to say, world record holder. Canada has a world record holder, so we spoke to her at the Canadian Track Nationals. We are at Canadian Cycling on both Twitter and Instagram. And Matthew, who do you think I should tell about this wonderful episode?
Oh, good. Yes, this is the part where we recommend that you tell someone, listeners, about this episode. And I got someone. We're recording this early October. Actually, today is crazy. Today is like midsummer weather, but fall is technically coming. If you're a commuter and you see hardcores like yourself out there, say, hey buddy, good to see you commuting. You know what you should do? Listen to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast.
And maybe subscribe to the newsletter.
Oh yes, we have a very good newsletter. Please sign up to that. It is curated by none other than Philippe Tremblay right here. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.